How's it going, Exile? So I finally have my updated version of my Spark ready now. Sorry it took so long, but I have been pretty busy with other stuff, and this version now basically does not rely on Energy Shield anymore. That has like significant advantages. First of all, we don't have to use the Everlasting Gaze Amulet anymore, and we have room for an amulet which actually significantly increases our DPS. Furthermore, by removing Energy Shield, we now can remove all the Energy Shield nodes in our skill tree, blocking valuable skill points, and we can redistribute all that stuff into raw damage. And also by having more mana available, we actually have like a pretty significant effective hit pool, which regenerates at a rate of like 2000 per second by default. And also in a map, whenever we kill a mob, we use 2% mana on kill jewels. So whenever we kill a mob, we basically get like 300 to 400 mana back. Since we are killing like roughly 10 to 20 mobs a second, we are basically immortal as long as we are killing stuff. And that feels really, really good if you just move forward and everything dies around you. And you don't really have to worry about dodging like explosions or anything. It just works just fine. In this build now, with all the adjustments, we have roughly 9k mana pool, we have 250k DPS in our tooltip, and that DPS is reached at a rate of 0.25 attacks per second. I know you see a bunch of build guides who have like 500k or a million tooltip DPS, but they all have like 0.1 second attack speed, which is like extremely expensive to get like these, 30% attack speed wands and focuses is basically something which is almost unreachable for me. So I feel like my raw damage is actually not that much less. Yes, I have less DPS, but on a map, you know what, I only have to press Spark like twice a second or even once a second and everything is gonna get one hit anyway, so I don't need that really high attack speed. That being said, the focus of this build is not bossing. The focus of this build is mapping, like breaches, delirium, or whatever. You can absolutely kill bosses with this, no problem, but bosses take like a couple of seconds instead of being one shot instantly. You can definitely see we can do bosses. You can see the Simulacrum right now, or you can see the Arbiter, so absolutely no problem killing those bosses, but the primary focus here is certainly like breach farming and other stuff. In this guide, we go all over the skill changes, we go over the items, we go over the passive tree, and we have a pretty detailed section on how to trade for the items. We have all the trade links as usually in the description down below, so just copy the trade links, fit in your budget, and buy the items you want. And also obviously the planner to this build is in the description down below. So without further ado now, let's go right into the guide and let's start with the skill changes. Alright, here's our skills now. So as you can see, I'm sitting at 230k tooltip DPS at an attack speed of 0.25 seconds, right? So a lot of the 500k DPS videos you see, they have a cast time of like 0.1 seconds, which is heavily inflated by attack speed. I'm not going to say that it's bad, but this build is pretty much gonna one-shot every single monster anyway, so I feel like the extra attack speed just gives you a little bit more clear speed, like in the movement speed, because you can get into the quicker movement faster if you have lower cast time, but this is completely alright, and I think this is pretty much the best I can achieve with the amount of time I'm willing to invest. So let's see what we changed here, right? So we still have Sigil of Power with Magnified Effect, and we have the Persistence on here now. So the Persistence, the skill effect duration we removed from Spark, right? Spark we just basically pumped with more damage. I felt like the Persistence is not really needed when mapping, doing breaches or delirium or stuff like that. This might be good for bossing still, because I guess if the projectiles last a lot longer, you can make a lot more hits on a boss. But again, I'm not really using this to fight bosses. It can absolutely kill bosses, no problem, but this is not the primary focus of this build. So for the Spark, we still have Arcane Tempo, we use Acceleration for the more projectile speed, and then we have Controlled Destruction, Lightning Mastery, and Considered Casting. So I feel like Lightning Mastery is decent on this skill, because at the higher levels it basically gets one extra projectile per level, right? So if you see now it has 23. If we remove Lightning Mastery, it goes to 22, and we actually lose like roughly 30k DPS, right? So every skill level now gives pretty much one projectile. So I have level 31, which is pretty much the highest I can achieve. I guess technically, I don't even know. I think you could get more with extremely strong jewels, but this is pretty much the highest skill level you can achieve with normal techniques. Then we still run Conductivity with Hate and Curse, Ritualistic Curse, Hex Bloom, and Focused Curse. This Hex Bloom, we don't really need it at all. I basically never use this curse unless I have a boss. So not even on Delirium bosses, I'm basically not using it. Same goes for Orb of Storms. We have Strip Away and Exposure on it. Then we have Overabundance, so we can make 2 of them. And Font of Mana for regenerating some more mana. Again, I solely use this on bosses. I basically never use this in maps. Then Archmage, we just have the Clarity on. I will get to that later because I have the extra 10 Spirit. If you don't have extra 10 Spirit, don't use Clarity. Mana Tempest I still have here, but I don't use it. Since I swept to full mana, I have no energy shield, so by just staying in Mana Tempest for 1 cast too long could cost you your life. So I'm basically not using Mana Tempest anymore. And Flame Wall I pretty much just use in stronger encounters like Simulacrum or bosses with Spell Cascade, Fortress, and Energy Barrier. I don't even know if Energy Barrier does anything, to be honest. And then our weapon swap basically just has my Blink with Ingenuity on, right? So that is the changes in the skill. Again, I'm purely focusing on raw DPS right now here. And now let's get to the gear and the skill tree and see how we actually achieve this high DPS. So let's check out the gear. This is definitely more expensive than it was before. So I'm going to go over the gear and make sure to check the description down below. I have all the trade links and we're going to get to this in the trade section, how to use them. But I just want to go over the gear, explain the price of every item and explain my reasoning behind that. So first of all, I have a +5 wand with basically just mana and intelligence. And everything else is bonus. You want to have high mana, high intelligence. All the other stuff pretty much doesn't matter. It's just a nice extra bonus effect. And you can get these for like 2 to 3 divines if you just have like a, you know, a medium mana roll and a high intelligence roll. Reason for this is I'm going for full intelligence, right? We have more than 1000 intelligence, so I want to have intelligence on every item. It's the primary focus mainly. But besides this, I can still majorly upgrade this to get like a much better wand with attack speed, cast speed, or more mana regeneration, or more mana. So there's definitely spell damage also possible. But you know what? These wands are pretty expensive, and this one here is pretty much alright for me. Then let's go with the focus. So I have had this focus for ages. If you get high ES, low mana, +2 skills, cast speed is not important, intelligence is nice. You can use your focus to fix an extra resistance if it doesn't have cast speed. You can also go for a lower energy shield, more mana one. I think the higher energy shield ones are a little bit better than the high mana ones though. And for the helmet, I have a Magic Find helmet here. So basically I go for a helmet. And by the way, this focus is very expensive. I forgot about to say. So this is probably like 10 to 15, maybe 20 divine right now. But you know, just getting one with 30 to 40 energy shield less will cost you like 2 divine or 3 divine. And yeah, for the helmet, so basically for helmet, boots, and gloves, I tend to buy items which cost 1 divine or even like 80 to 120 exalt range, and then just corrupt them for a second socket. I feel like that's way better than buying a very expensive item which just have 1 socket. So for the helmet, I basically go for like 150-ish energy shield, and we go for rarity, intelligence, and 2 resistances. And then we corrupt them to get the second socket to get the 4% mana. Same goes for the boots. I have 35 movement speed, decent ES here, maximum mana, intelligence, and double res. And again, same story. I buy these for like, you know, 1 to 2 divines, and then I corrupt them until I get the second socket. The gloves, I still need to buy new ones to get a second socket, but this ones still are pretty good. Unfortunately, I didn't hit my second socket on these ones here. But yeah, so try to get energy shield. Don't get crazy about energy shield on gloves. It doesn't matter all that much. Just get a higher mana roll, rarity, intelligence, and a resistance, and you're gonna be just fine. Then let's go to the Ingenuity. So at some point you want to upgrade your Ingenuity. You might be playing like in 50% Ingenuity, which is like, you know, a couple of divines, like 4 divines or something like that right now. I would highly recommend to get like a 70 plus. I think I paid 20 divines for this, so this is definitely the most expensive gear piece I have. Everything above 50% is good, but it really makes a difference to have a high Ingenuity belt here. So if you want to save for something big, save for Ingenuity, I would say. And then for the armor, so I play Morio Invictus with 6/6 attributes mana. So why do I play a 4 socket one is, these are roughly 6 to 7 divines. So it's still expensive, but if you want to get a 5-socket one with 5 attributes and 5 mana, that's going to be 20 divines. So this one is basically just 1% attributes less and 3% maximum mana less than a 5-socket one, but the 5-socket one costs you 4 times as much. So I highly recommend getting this 6/6 ones here. They are usually very easy to get, and these really matter a lot. It's a very nice armor for this build. So my rings are just 1 to 2 divine rings, basic rings. I use them to fix resistance, get maximum mana, intelligence, and increase mana regeneration rate. Would be nice to have magic find on these, but I don't have it, unfortunately. My second ring, pretty much same story. Mana, intelligence, all res, and a mana regeneration, right? This one here is not a breach ring. I have to upgrade these rings. But basically you want to have all res on your rings because that's the best way to fix your resistances. And again, these are 1 to 2 divines each. I didn't even corrupt these yet, so I still need an upgrade on my rings. And last but not least, the amulet. So since we are ditching Everlasting Gaze, we can use the amulet spot. And this one gives you significantly increased DPS. Like the amulet slot does really a lot. And so I still need to get a better amulet. This one is alright, but it is definitely not top. This one I paid 3 divines for. And so you want to have 20 attributes-ish, like roughly 20 attributes on your amulet. So we were able to equip this armor without investing into further attributes. And we're going to get to that in the skill tree section where I actually get the 51 attributes from, as this is just giving me plus 20, right? So yeah, for the amulet, I have one with 10 spirit, which is nice, gives me like 10% mana regeneration, but is definitely not mandatory. And then the best would be here to have a percent mana roll on here, and then maximum mana, projectile skills, all attributes, and intelligence. This is pretty much all right. And plus 3 is nice. It's really making a huge difference above the plus 2. So I would highly recommend, if you cannot afford plus 3 with percent mana, which I cannot afford as well, I would get a plus 3 without percent mana. It's better than a plus 2 with percent mana. So if I show you, I have still the amulet here. This is my old one I had. So as you can see, this one is a plus 2 with percent mana. And it has a decent mana roll, 20 all attributes. Again, the dexterity I don't need. It has 27 max energy shield, which gives more mana. And if you see the change when I switch these amulets, so I have 8,800 mana right now. If I put this on, I will jump to like 9.2. So this is giving me significantly more mana. Like it's a difference in like 500 mana, which is actually huge. But if you look at my DPS, I'm basically falling. I have to remove the clarity here. So I'm falling to 218, and if I put this back on, I'm going to 231. So, and don't forget, we get 1 extra projector, right? So this is 23. This is 22. So significantly increased by getting plus 3 spell skills or projectile skills. So highly recommend getting a plus 3. And the next upgrade, obviously, for me will be getting a plus 3 with percent maximum mana, and that's going to be absolutely amazing. And for the Anoint, we use Insightfulness right now as the best Anoint I can find for this. It just gives me 6% increased intelligence, and since we're stacking attributes, as you can see, it's highly beneficial. I have 1,063 intelligence, but we're going to get to this in the skill tree section, which is up next. So now let's go over the skill tree we changed for getting full mana. So first of all, the Ascendancy I changed slightly. I'm not using Heart of the Storm anymore because obviously we have no energy shield. And I don't use Skewering Winds here for the exposure because, again, I'm not really doing a whole lot of bossing and I don't need the extra exposure anyway. So I think it's much better to use the plus 4 all res because in this build you will need a lot of resistances and the increased chance to shock is pretty much what I'm playing. If you're bossing, you will probably play these two. So in the skill tree we really changed a lot. So we removed all this stuff here and we basically focused on just getting intelligence. As we already said, right, we have 1,063 intelligence, and intelligence basically triple dips into damage for us. So we are heavily focusing on getting as much intelligence as possible. So let's go over the skill tree. So we basically get all the int nodes, and flat energy shield is basically int, right? We just get this int node and this mana node, and then we pass all the way over here We're gonna get to the jewels right after this. Then we're gonna just pick up the Mind Over Matter here and this 5% elemental resistance mainly because we're really struggling with resistances. Then we pick up all these nodes here, and these ones here we're gonna get later too. Because, you know, these do not make any sense because we're not playing any minions, so I'm gonna get to this in just a minute. Then we play the Eldritch Battery together with all the Arcane stuff here, the raw mana, we get the intelligence here, and we get the pure power. These are all with the controlled metamorphosis. Again, we're just going to get to this in a second. Then we take some value nodes. So value nodes are basically all nodes which have intelligence on them, right? Our primary focus is intelligence, but we get 5% cast speed and 15% mana rack and another 6% cast speed basically for the price of just 3 nodes. So I'm going for node efficiently, like how most efficiently get as much intelligence as possible out of your nodes, right? And then we go over CI here, and we just pick Wild Storm, because, you know, this just gives us 15% more maximum lightning damage, which is pretty nice. Then we pass all the way over all these jewel slots. We pick up Acceleration here. This is purely optional, but this is so skill speed is basically attack speed and cast speed, right? So, and trap throwing speed and whatever it is. But, so this is basically 16% cast speed and 3% movement speed for just 3 points. So I feel like this is pretty valuable. And then we go over here, pick up the Lightning Rod here. Of course, you can anoint Lightning Rod if you want to spend like the couple of divines to do this. But I just choose it anyway. And we pick up the Flash Storm here for more lightning penetration. Lightning penetration is basically our main damage acceleration in maps, I would say. And then last but not least, we go for attributes here, right? So we go for 10% increased attributes because that is really what's going to do our damage. And why do intelligence basically like triple dip into damage? Basically, we have like this node here, which gives us 2% increased lightning damage per 10 intelligence, right? And then intelligence creates mana, and mana again gives us more spell damage. So intelligence is really, really nice. And then obviously with the increased effect of Arcane Surge here per 15 maximum mana, we basically get like a crazy amount of attack speed and mana regeneration from this. So that is about the raw skill tree. So now let's talk about these jewel choices here. So this one here, first of all, controlled metamorphosis. This is a -12 Aures. I think this was like 4 or 5 divines. You can definitely get a better or a worse one. You just have to fix your resistance, right? This is really nice because we can get a lot of value nodes with this. First of all, we can get Eldritch Will, which gives us 3% mana. Then we can get Pure Power, which is obviously amazing, and we don't have to do like all these little lightning damage nodes here. Then we can get Lightning Quick here for more attack and cast speed and more damage. Then we can get Drench, which doesn't do a whole lot, but, you know, we're gonna get to this in a second. And we still get Branching Bolts here for the chain. It's really nice. You don't have to get this, but I'm using this Against the Darkness here. And Against the Darkness, basically, you can get one with 4% intelligence and 3% cold resistance. These are also like roughly 5 divines. So what this does is basically all the big nodes here give 4% increased int, right? So this is 1, 2, 3, which I get basically for free. And then this is basically 5 nodes to pick up 2 of these, right? So this is 8% increased intelligence for 5 nodes. 8% increased intelligence is roughly 100 int, right? For 5 nodes. So compared to these, it's like 4 times more int than just, you know, using intelligence nodes. So this is really, really strong. And then the secondary here is 3%. So you can use this to fix one of your resistance, right? This gives 3% cold resistance for every single small one here. And so we get the 9% cold rest for these and another 9 here. So that's basically, I would call it free, what is it, 18% cold resistance here, right? And then talking about another jewel choice, we have this royal node here, and we got this through Megalomaniac. So you can get a very cheap Megalomaniac like this one here, and I have a trade link in the description which one you can get. So you basically want to get any of these nodes, right? This is the best because this technically does something. We get 30% increased area of effect for our curse and our sigil of power, which is not very important to be honest, but you know, it's still doing something. So you want to get one of these, right? This, 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 or this. And I have a link in the trade section. You can also get one of this if you don't want to pass through here. So all these only make sense if you have high intelligence, right? But you can get any of these. I call them garbage nodes, right? And then you get one like semi-useful one. So this, for example, costs like 1 divine. You can get for 1 or 2 divines, you can get decent ones. And I have a trade link for a couple of nodes. But so this basically gives me 4% increased intelligence through the royal here. And then we have Storm Surge here, which is just a random value node. Just gives me 15% lightning pen, right? So this is a very good invested jewel slot. And besides that, for the other jewels, basically you want to get intelligence on every single jewel. So you want to, I don't know, perfect example. So let's start. I want to have 2 times mana on kill jewels, and everything else is cast speed, magnitude of ailment, magnitude of shock, or penetration, or you can also go for projectile damage, lightning damage, spell damage. These are all alright. I would say get 2 times recover 2% mana on kill. That's basically going to make you immortal on any map in any breach. And then all other jewels, I still use some to fix my resistances. But for all other jewels, try to get intelligence with something, right? So this, for example, intelligence, spell damage, skill effect duration. Skill effect duration is alright, but not super awesome. Then here, intelligence, projectile damage, lightning pen. Here we have intelligence, cast speed, magnitude of shock. Here I have intelligence, projectile damage, lightning pen, and then I use some to fix my resistance. Here's still intelligence, projectile damage, lightning pen, right? So lightning pen, magnitude of shock are both, I would say, the best ones, and cast speed. And then you can use some to fix your resistance, right? I have one with fire resistance here, and the last one here I have, okay, it's also blank. So I still can get much better jewels. But this basically all together with all the int we have on our gear brings us to like 1063 intelligence. That's why we have so high cast speed. We have nearly 2000 mana regeneration, which is completely alright if you are in maps. As you can see, resistance are not completely capped right now. Still missing a little bit of fire res here. But that's completely alright. It's gonna work. And we basically have this high mana regeneration without investing any mana regeneration in tree, right? We don't have any mana regen node, but these 2 little ones here for 10% and some value nodes. But we do not invest here in mana regeneration. We do not even take these nodes. So we have a very little mana regeneration investment because through the high int and the high mana pool, we basically have enough mana regeneration right off the box here. And yeah, so that's the changes to the passive skill tree. And now let's go to the trade section. Actually, we're not going to the trade section yet. I'm just going to show the Atlas tree again. I didn't make any changes in the Atlas tree. I'm just going to explain it real quick, right? So if you want to run Breach, get more monster density, get more chances to get breaches, and get opening slower. If you don't have your breach points led, I highly recommend getting these. It's pretty cheap to get these actually, and the breach boss is very, very easy to do. And then for the regular tree, pretty much everybody plays a kind of a variant of this. Most people play these 2 quantity nodes here. I like to play the tablet nodes. I feel like I get a little bit more value out of the tablets than the quantity nodes here. And then for Simulacrum, I basically make all my maps delirious, and I try to play high delirium maps. I can get more than 100 simulacrum splinters per map if I do it properly and if I choose my maps. So you want to have more fracture mirrors. So this is the priority, right? First of all, you want to get this one, 20% to have random motions. Then you want to double your stack size of simulacrum splinters. So highly recommend getting these 4. These here are bonus. Next thing you would want to get this one. And last but not least, you would want to get this one. Then for the boss tree, pretty standard. You go through higher tiers, additional shrines, irradiate boss maps, and then have a random corruption. And that's pretty much all the mechanics I play. As I say, I don't really do bossing, but these are just, enhancing my maps in a very, very significant way. And now to make the correction again, now we go through the trade section. Alright, let's talk about the trade links real quick. I'm not gonna drag this out so far, so we can just see what you're getting yourself into. So first of all the trade links are in the description down below, so make sure to check them out. You don't have to do the work. So first of all, we have the Moria Invictus here. As you can see, a 6/6/1 is 6 Divine Orbs, and if you can get a one with high energy shield, you can definitely focus on that, but you have to be lucky. I wouldn't sweat it to just get like the first one you can see. Again, usually you can get these for like 6 to 7 Divine Orbs, opposed to, if you really change this to a 5 socket, right, then they go for like 20. So change this to for 5, right, and then you will see these are like 17 Divines. And it's really not worth the upgrade, I would say. I mean, if you have the cash, of course, but I would say in generally go for the 6/6. It's almost the same as having the 5 socket one. So next here is the wand. So I want to say, how do you use my trade links? Basically, there's always an exalted orb equivalent in mine, and we're going to filter basically by the maximum you want to pay for the item, right? And then there's always going to be a weighted sum of the stuff you want. So in this case, 500, right? And then if you search, then as you can see, you always order by the sum we have, right? So you can see in my query for this wand, I have for 4 divines. This one's actually pretty decent. 16 inch, 192 mana, 5 mana per enemy killed is alright. 31 spell. And then, you know, if you want to go for lower, you can always just lower this number, right? So instead of you go for 450, and now you will see it's still 4 divine. So maybe you just want to go to like 400. And at some point you will see 3 divines. The +5s are not cheap, right? So this is a bad example. But this is how you basically can change your budget. Decrease this number or decrease the exalted orb equivalent. It works the same for everything here. So right now we are at roughly 10 divines for the build. So let's go on with the focus. So focus here again, same story. We have a weighted sum. In this case, we have energy shield minimum 300. And we have, again, exalted orb equivalent. So as you can see, we find some, this is for like 3 to 4 divines in this area. And if we sort by the biggest one, again, my budget is higher, so you can always lower the number you want to spend. But as you can see, this is like 330 energy shield, 31 int, 100 mana, 2 all spells. So you can definitely get focuses in the range of this for like 3 or 4 divines. So let's just make it 15 divines for now. So helmet, I go for 25% rarity. Same story. We have a weighted sum for int and mana, basically just, and a budget and a minimum energy shield here, so you can adjust if you want. And also you can adjust the 50 res to be lower. But for these helmets, helmets, gloves, and boots, I put like a lower requirement, just 500, because I don't want to pay more than 1 divine each, because I want to corrupt them to have double socket, right? The double socket makes these significantly more valuable, because we get an extra 2% mana out of this. So I would recommend never buy the corrupted ones, right? Just buy regular ones for 1 divine, like this one here or whatever, right? Corrupted. If you don't get like a second socket, you put it back into the store for like whatever, you know, 100 exalts or 150 exalts, whatever it may be, and then just, you know, go with the next one until you have 2 socket items. It's really, really good to do this. And also, take a look at the sockets here, right? So this is already socketed with 205. This is not socketed with 223. So this one here has significantly more energy shield than this one. This one here is also significantly better than this one. So pay attention to if it's already enhanced with the socket or not. Then we go for boots. Same story. I try to hit boots for 1 divine and double socket them. Again, same exalted orb equivalent here, 25% movement speed. If you want to spend more, you can go to 30%. Energy shield, 120, 180 sum of int and mana. So if we look at the ones we get here for like 1 divine, you get, you know, decent pair of boots, I would say. Again, you can always spend more, but, you know, I would say definitely a possibility. Gloves, pretty much exactly the same, right? We have a little bit of energy shield, don't sweat energy shield on glove. We have exalted orb equivalent, magic find, 220 mana and intelligence combined, and some resistances. And as you can see, for 1 divine, I get like, you know, decent gloves. Corrupt them for double socket. So ingenuity, the most expensive item. You definitely, if you don't have the money to, like, if you don't have 20 divs, you can always go a little bit lower, like 65. The curve goes pretty slow, right? This is fake. So 13 is for 65, right? And then if you go to like the 60s, you're probably right at 8 to 9 exalts. So you don't have to buy a big one. If you have like 8 exalts and I say, hey, I want to get a nice upgrade, or if you're 9 divines and you say, hey, I want a nice upgrade, you just buy the 60, and then, you know, once you have more divines, you just sell it again. These sell pretty easily and their prices are relatively stable at the moment. Then for the rings, a little bit different. You can put Magic Find on them if you want, but it makes them significantly more expensive, or you don't have to, right? I have the weighted sum here again, and I want to have on my rings 10 All-Res and 50 Mana Rec, so I make this a requirement. And then we have the sum again, right? And as you can see, we have like 2 divines here, pretty decent one. These are all pretty expensive. There's one for 4. So again, if you want to go cheaper, just lower this number accordingly to whatever, like 350. And as you can see, we're already in like the little exalt range here. So maybe you want to put it on to 400. So the curves are pretty significant, right? So this is all like less than 1 divine. And you can definitely play around with these values. So Amulet, again, I have a +2 in here for you. If you don't have enough cash, I have a +2. And with all attributes. And you want to have increased maximum mana, by the way. I forgot that in the query. So this is basically all attributes. This is actually mine. All attributes, maximum mana. And best is if you can get int. And the other way would be you remove the maximum mana and you go to +3. So I recommend getting the +3 because you get like more stats on the +3, right? If you look, I can get to like 350 and I still get good ones here. I can get ones with intelligence if I want. And +3 gives you significantly more DPS. So you have to figure that out. I'm running a +3 without % mana. Obviously, +3 with % mana will be the best one, but that is yeah, relatively far out of reach for me right now. So let's go to the jewels. I have just one query for the jewels, basically, and I have like a big sum here. So it basically has to have at least 8 intelligence. You can put this to 7 to get like cheaper results, right? I have it on 8. And then we have like a bunch of stuff we want to focus here. So mainly we are focusing on... we always sort by the sum, right? So mainly we are focusing on penetration and magnitude of shock, right? Magnitude of shock, cast speed. This is a pretty good one, by the way. Magnitude of ailments, projectile damage is okay, but, you know, lightning damage, penetration is okay. Penetration, magnitude of shock, this is pretty good. But you have to figure that out on your own, right? I don't want to spend divines yet for my jewels, so I usually get like a little bit cheaper. But you have to figure it out. So as soon as you go to +7 int, you get like a lot of cheaper ones, right? If you look at this, now you get like a bunch of in the exalt range. And as soon as you go with +8 intelligence, they basically get significantly more expensive, right? So then we have controlled metamorphosis. Not going to talk about this. I have it set at -12 res, which are like 7 divines right now. You can always go for like 15 and make it way cheaper if you want. You just have to fix a little bit more res, but you can definitely adjust this to have cheaper ones. This one would be nice, but it's AFK. So you see these are like 5 divines. Against the darkness is pretty straightforward, right? You want to have +3 of a resistance you want to fix and +4 intelligence. These are like 7 divines right now. If you want, you can always go to like a +2 and they get like a little bit cheaper, but I recommend getting a +3 for your resistance fix. If you buy this, just spend the money. And then last but not least, I have the Megalomaniac here. You usually can pick these up for like 1 to 2 divines. So if you look at the filter here, this is like basically the ones you want to have. And this is like just a bunch of random okay nodes, which are cheap. I did not include all nodes by far. So if you find better nodes or other nodes you can buy cheap, you can definitely extend this list. This is full, so you would have to create a second sum and then, you know, alternate between them. But if you look at these right now, as you can see, there's one Breath of Ice. So I have Breath of Ice in because it's just 10 int, right? We play Lightning, it doesn't matter, it's just 10 int. So this would be a playable one. These are like 3 divines, but you usually find them for like 1 to 2 divines. It shouldn't be an issue to pick them up, even if you spend like a little bit of time trading for them. And that was all the trade links. I hope you find these useful, and I hope you find this build update useful. I still will probably have one more iteration of this build when I make it perfect for the level I can achieve. And again, I hope you find this video useful, and thank you so much for watching, and I see you guys next time.